On March 15, 44 BCE, the assassination of Julius Caesar plunged the Roman Republic into an immediate, violent power vacuum. The streets descended into factional panic as rival politicians scrambled to claim control of the empire. Amidst the chaos, Caesar's will was unsealed, revealing a surprising primary heir. It was Gaius Octavius, an obscure, frequently ill 18-year-old student living in Apollonia, who possessed no official political rank and commanded no army. The will contained a far more dangerous asset than money. Caesar legally adopted the boy, granting him the deadliest name in the ancient world, Caesar. His own family urged him to hide. Octavius ignored them. He chose to sail directly to Italy to claim his inheritance in person. By marching into Rome and claiming the name, Octavius painted a target on his own back. He was stepping into a chaotic arena filled with seasoned generals who fully intended to use this teenager as a pawn and then discard him. Octavian bypassed the cursus honorum, the traditional multi-year ladder of Roman political offices. He leveraged the Caesar name and his massive new fortune to instantly recruit a private militia made up of his adoptive father's fiercely loyal veterans. Even with thousands of soldiers, Octavian recognized his vulnerability. He lacked the political capital and the sheer troop numbers required to hold Rome by himself. He struck a highly pragmatic deal. Octavian forged the Second Triumvirate, a legally sanctioned oligarchy, alongside two hardened veteran military commanders, Mark Antony and Marcus Lepidus. Working together, the three men systematically hunted down the politicians who had assassinated Caesar. They crushed the rival senatorial forces entirely at the Battle of Philippi in 42 BCE. With their mutual enemies dead, the victors decided to carve up the territories of the Roman Republic among themselves. By dividing the map, the former allies guaranteed they would eventually become rivals. Octavian's survival during this phase required immense discipline. He shared control with deadly rivals, patiently consolidating his own military strength until he was powerful enough to remove them. The first to fall was Lepidus. In 36 BCE, Octavian exploited a minor political miscalculation by his co-ruler to legally strip him of his military titles and absorb his territories, avoiding a full-scale war entirely. That left Mark Antony, who had formed a powerful political and romantic alliance with Cleopatra, the Ptolemaic queen of Egypt. To Rome, this combined Eastern power base looked like an existential threat. This tactical map of the Gulf of Ambracia illustrates the setup for the climactic naval battle of Actium in 31 BCE. Rather than rushing into direct combat, Octavian drew a blockade line that severed Mark Antony's supply routes, deliberately starving the enemy camp for months. By the time Octavian's naval commander, Marcus Agrippa, pushed his ships inward to deliver the fatal blow, Antony's men were riddled with disease and exhaustion. The enemy fleet's formation shattered. Antony and Cleopatra fled, eventually dying by suicide. Octavian immediately marched in and annexed the entirety of Egypt, claiming the wealthy nation as his own personal property. Actium demonstrated exactly how Octavian waged war. He relied on the strategic brilliance to isolate, starve, and exhaust his enemies long before striking the final blow. Octavian returned to Rome as a conquering hero. At just 32 years old, he stood as the sole uncontested ruler of the Mediterranean world. He faced a highly dangerous problem. He knew that claiming an outright dictatorship would guarantee he was assassinated on the Senate floor, exactly like his adoptive father. His solution was a calculated piece of political theater known as the First Settlement. In 27 BCE, Octavian formally stood before the Senate and relinquished all his extraordinary powers, returning his provinces and armies back to the people. The Senate reacted exactly as he had engineered. Terrified of falling back into civil war and desperate for stability, they refused his resignation and begged him to remain at the helm. In return for his continued leadership, they willingly granted him massive new legal powers. They named him Princeps, or First Citizen, and gave him the sacred, reverent title of Augustus. To maintain this authority, Augustus meticulously preserved the daily allusions, offices, and traditions of the Old Republic. He ruled as an absolute monarch hiding in plain sight. Octavian survived and succeeded where Caesar had failed, by grasping a profound political truth. Absolute power is most unbreakable when it wears the disguise of democratic tradition. This diagram shows his control in practice. He acquired tribunician power, giving him the absolute right to propose laws and veto any Senate legislation. To secure the empire, he obtained imperium maius. If a provincial governor issued an order, Augustus's authority automatically overrode it. By utilizing these specific legal structures, Augustus successfully hollowed out the Senate's actual power, leaving them with an administrative facade that kept the Roman elite comfortable and compliant. Legal power is useless if you can't enforce it. To guarantee his survival, Augustus needed total monopolization of the Roman military. He restructured the armed forces, downsizing a bloated Civil War-era military of over 60 legions into a permanent standing army of 28. To pay for this force, he established the Aeriarium Militare, a specialized military treasury funded directly by new taxes on inheritances and sales. This treasury shifted the nature of military loyalty. Soldiers now relied entirely on Augustus for their regular wages and retirement bonuses. They legally swore their oaths to him directly rather than to their individual commanding generals. He also created the Praetorian Guard, an elite bodyguard unit stationed right in Italy, serving as a constant physical deterrent against any political rivals in the capital. By centralizing the funding of the legions and placing elite enforcers in his own backyard, Augustus made armed rebellion against his regime both financially impossible and physically suicidal. Physical force can hold an empire together temporarily, but true longevity requires cultural and moral authority. He passed the Leges Julii, strict moral laws that criminalized adultery and penalized celibacy. This framed Augustus as the savior of traditional Roman family virtues. He backed this up with a massive literary campaign. By patronizing writers like Virgil, who wrote the epic poem The Aeneid, Augustus presented his family's rule as a divine, inevitable destiny. He provided visual evidence of the stability he brought through monumental marble architecture, like the Arapacis, displaying his family in a pious, harmonious procession. Intertwining his regime with strict morality, with epic literature, and grand public works, Augustus successfully rebranded his absolute autocracy as the ultimate defense of traditional Roman identity. By the time he died in 14 CE, he had earned ultimate honors like Pater Patriae, Father of the Country, while the old republic had long since drifted into romantic memory. The immediate, seamless succession of power to his stepson, Tiberius, proved that the autocratic system he designed was now a permanent fixture of the Roman world. The result was the Pax Romana, 2 centuries of internal stability, secure borders, and economic growth. But it came with an ultimate trade-off. The Roman people accepted spectacular infrastructure, internal peace, and a narrative of traditional greatness in exchange for the permanent loss of their political liberty. Augustus authored the definitive playbook for authoritarianism. He ultimately proved that a populace will willingly surrender their freedom if the gilded cage is secure enough.